Welcome to the Stewardship Leader, the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to build businesses they can steward, not businesses that own them. I'm Hart, and each week we'll explore practical business strategy, leadership lessons, and stewardship to help you build predictable growth while staying aligned with your business, family, and calling. Let's dive in. Today's episode is one that sits right at the intersection of leadership and sales. And if that combination surprises you, I think by the end of this episode, it's going to make complete sense. Because here's what I've come to believe after more than 9 years of working with coaches, consultants, service providers, and experts is that the best sales conversations are not sales conversations at all. They are leadership moments. They are moments where someone is looking to you not just to sell them something, but to help them see more clearly, to help them make a better decision, to help them take the next right step toward the future they're trying to build. And when you approach a sales call that way, with the posture of a leader and a steward rather than a closer, everything changes. That's what I want to talk about today. I want to take you inside a discovery call I had recently that reminded me, in a very personal way, exactly why this matters. And I want to share with you a framework. It's 4 layers that I believe exist inside almost every sales conversation that can completely transform the way you show up when a potential client sits across from you. So picture this. A potential client books a call with me and she tells me, I need help promoting a webinar. Simple enough, right? I'm thinking that time, about registration pages, email reminders, maybe some paid ads, a social promotion plan. Like many consultants and service providers do, I went in on the call expecting to map out scope and deliverables. But pretty early into the call, she said something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, This isn't my wheelhouse. And then a few minutes later, she said it again, just a little differently. She said, I just need someone to tell me what needs to happen. Now, at first, I interpreted that as a marketing problem. Maybe she needed a registration page, email reminders, social promotion, or paid advertising. But the deeper I listened, the more I realized none of those were the real problem. Her challenge wasn't webinar promotion. Her challenge was decision making. And she didn't know what she didn't know back then. And in that moment, my role completely shifted. I wasn't there anymore to convince her to hire me. I was there to help her gain clarity. And honestly, the older I get in this business, the more I realize that most business owners aren't actually looking for another tactic. They're looking for a trusted advisor, someone who can help them think strategically, someone who can look at what they're building, someone to ask better questions and help them make confident decisions. So that's become one of my favorite parts of discovery calls now, not uncovering projects, but uncovering possibilities. And it got me thinking about how almost every sales conversation, when you really pay attention, unfolds in layers. So let's break those down. So, like I mentioned, there are 4 layers. So, layer one, what they say they need. So, this is the surface level request, and this is what shows up in your inbox or on your calendar booking form. So, things like I need a website, I need social media, I need a webinar, I need more leads, etc. Now, here's the thing about layer one. Most of the time, this is a symptom. It's not the cause. It's the thing they can point to and name, but it's rarely the actual roof. It's rarely the actual root of what's going on. Now, layer two, what they're actually trying to accomplish. Now, this layer is where the conversation starts to get interesting. She said she needed the webinar promotion, but the webinar isn't really about the webinar. You know, the website isn't really the website need. The social media strategy isn't really about posting content. It's all about authority, visibility, and it's about revenue growth, credibility, and impact. So the real question I'm asking underneath the surface is, what does success actually look like for this person? Now, layer three, what they're afraid of. So this is where trust begins, where most clients are actually afraid of the tactic itself. They're afraid of wasting money. They're afraid of making the wrong decisions. They're afraid of hiring the wrong person, missing an opportunity, or looking foolish. And here's something I have to remind myself of constantly. So when someone says, I don't know, don't rush to fill the silence. Get curious, ask another question, and that silence is doing work. Let it. Now, layer four, what they actually need. So, this is the deepest layer, and it's often very different from what they originally requested. So, in this case, in this discover call, my potential client thought she needed webinar promotion, but what she actually needed was a strategic plan, a trusted guide, a trusted advisor, a repeatable process, and confidence in the next step. And that's an entirely different conversation. And honestly, it's often where the real value begins. Most people don't buy tactics, they buy the certainty. So let's talk about, why lots of discovery calls miss that mark. Many service providers hear a problem and immediately start trying to solve it. I was like this when I was getting started in the business. So when the client says, I need more leads, and suddenly we're off to talking about funnels, ads, automation, email sequences, CRM systems, and the list goes on and on. But here's the truth. If you prescribe before you diagnose, you're just guessing. You might be right, but you're still guessing. The art of consultative selling requires patience and it requires curiosity. And honestly, it also requires resisting the urge to prove yourself in that moment. The deeper skill I see here, the one that actually separates good consultants from great ones, is learning to sit with uncertainty long enough to uncover the real problem. And I'll be honest with you, even after years of doing this, helping clients launch programs, help them build their sales funnels, create lead generation systems, and grow their revenue in their business, I still catch myself, wanting to solve too quickly. So when someone says, I don't know, my instinct is to teach, to explain, to advise, and to provide answers. But the best consultants don't rush to become the expert. They start in curiosity longer. So instead, we need to ask, tell me more about that. And more often than not, that's exactly where the breakthrough happens. So back to my story, what happened after that call, 2 days later, of course, after sending my recommendations, after the call, 2 days later, she reached back out, not because I pressured her, not because I followed up with some hard sell, not because I worked through a list of objections. She reached out because she had clarity during our call. So with our conversation, we had uncovered that what she thought was a webinar promotion challenge was actually a strategic planning challenge. She didn't need more tactics and she didn't need another marketing checklist. She needed a stronger foundation. As we talked through her vision, her goals, what she actually hoped to accomplish then, it became really clear that launching a webinar wasn't the first step. Building the offer behind the webinar was the first step. So, creating a clear message, establishing the transformation, and designing what is called the trust building offer, something that would naturally attract the right people into your offer, create meaningful results, and prepare them for the larger solution that she ultimately wants to break the market. So after taking a couple days to reflect, she decided to move forward. But instead of hiring me for the webinar promotion, she enrolled in my trust building offer program so we could build that strategic foundation first. And from there, together, we're going to prepare for her September webinar launch and with a stronger offer, a clearer message, and a much more intentional customer journey. And that outcome reinforced something I've come to believe deeply. People really buy because they're persuaded. They buy because they become clear. They got clarity. And when people gain clarity, they make better decisions. And when they make better decisions, they gain confidence. And confidence creates momentum. So that sale wasn't a breakthrough. The clarity was. So the sale simply became the natural next step. Now, I want to close today's podcast with something I've been sitting with for a long time, and it connects deeply to why I named this podcast the Stewardship Leader. Stewardship is not just a financial concept. It's not just something we talk about in the context of giving or generosity, though it certainly includes those things. Stewardship is a posture, it's a way of showing up in every interaction you have. And when I think about what a truly great discovery call looks like, what a truly great sales conversation looks like, I think it looks like stewardship. It looks like someone who's generally more invested in the other person's clarity than in their own commission. So, someone who's willing to ask the uncomfortable question, to sit in silence, to follow the conversation where it actually needs to go, even when that direction is harder or less expected. Because here's what I've learned: when you genuinely care about helping someone make a good decision, sales stops feeling manipulative. You're no longer trying to convince anyone of anything. You're helping them gain clarity. And sometimes that clarity leads to a yes. Sometimes it leads to a no. Both outcomes are valuable because the goal was never the sale. The goal is helping someone make the right decision for their life and their business, and people can feel that difference. And this is what I think of as the sacred art of selling. The sacred art isn't persuasion, it's presence. It's listening deeply enough to hear the problem beneath the problem. It's asking questions that help people see what they couldn't see before. It's championing someone's vision while helping them make wise decisions. Because behind every business is a person carrying a dream, a person investing their time, their energy, their money, and their heart, pouring their heart into creating something meaningful, something they believe in, and something they feel matters. Now, when I sit across from a potential client, my goal isn't to close a deal. My goal is to steward that moment well, to understand what they are trying to build, and to ask better questions and to help them see more clearly. Because I believe that's what leaders do, not just in boardrooms or on stages, but in one on one conversations, like in discovery calls, and in the quiet moments where someone trusts you enough to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me figure this out? That trust is sacred. Steward it well. Clarity creates confidence, and confidence creates momentum. Momentum creates action, and action turns vision into reality. The sale is simply the vehicle. The real work, the stewardship work, is helping people believe what's possible and walking alongside them as they bring that vision to life. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Now, if this conversation challenged the way you think about discovery calls and sales conversations, I'd love to continue it with you. Join me over on the Stewardship Leader on Substack, where every week I share deeper reflections, practical business strategies, and behind the scenes lessons on stewardship, consultative selling, leadership, and building a business that creates predictable growth. Everything that I'm sharing here is completely free, and I'd love to welcome you into the community. And if you're listening today thinking, Heart, I don't just need another podcast episode, I need someone to help me think strategically about my business. That's exactly why I offer growth strategy calls. Whether you're creating a trust building offer, preparing for a webinar launch, refining your client acquisition strategy, or building a revenue ecosystem that reflects your values, I'd love to help you gain clarity on your next steps. You'll find the link to book a strategy call in the show notes. And if you know another entrepreneur who would benefit from this conversation, would you share this episode with them? You never know how one conversation, one insight, or one introduction can change the trajectory of someone's business. Until next time, build a business you can steward, not one that owns you. I'll see you in the next episode.